Excellent. Thank you, Clerk's Office. And welcome to the City of Port Orchard's City Council Special Meeting Tuesday, August 4th. As we begin all things, let's stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, couple of housekeeping items that we have for tonight. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, all confirmed for this evening, with our first interview to begin with Paul Fontenot.
She has questions for you too.
I have. Okay. We didn't make a decision last week, so we need to make a decision tonight on how this looks moving forward tonight. So we did alert them that they were going to get their 2-minute opening and closing, and 5 minutes per question in between there. We're not going to necessarily stop them at 5 minutes per question, but that's the time allowed that we have for each question. So I guess if we have one way or another, does anybody particularly want to ask the questions? Okay, just leave it right here. Keep it all.
I think it's consistent.
Okay.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
to be.
Are you okay with one person ask the questions?
All of the questions,
Or
Yeah.
do you
the
want to?
okay, and then are we asking follow-up questions, or are they just giving 5 minutes and then that's it?
We need to discuss that. So we think, when we talked last week, that we should remain within our 5 questions. Keeps all questions the same and making sure that we're not asking questions of one candidate that we're not asking of another.
Who's the official timer?
We can set one. We can ask Brandy if she would be our official timer.
Okay.
And since she's sitting
And
right
so,
across
and
from
she
you,
will be in my purview, so I can help, kind of go from there. Oh, I didn't think about using the light. That could be great. Can that switch between 2 and 5 minutes?
You can do seconds if you would like.
Okay, perfect. So, that'll work
so
perfect.
120 seconds.
I think, I like that idea, because if they can see the light out of the corner of their eye, they can get the idea that the yellow light comes up and we're going to be running short on time imminently. Outside of that, tonight is 4 candidates, and then,
No discussion after.
not tonight.
I think what Cheryl was asking is, correct me where I'm wrong, the follow-up, she's asking follow-up questions, not additional questions.
I'm one of 6 here, so, how, as
Do we
long,
want to do follow-up to the question that they ask, or do we want to just let them answer how they answer it and call it good?
Well, so, having interviewed a number of people, one of the things you want to try and be consistent is the same follow-ups where you can. And so, if we ask follow-ups that we expect to ask everybody, then we should be consistent that way. But I think we're going to run into a timing issue.
That's where I was going. I think
Just a
we're
reminder, I have Councilmember Rosa Pepe is online and has his hand raised.
he has his hand raised?
He does?
We can't see him right now. Yeah, maybe if we can get participants at least showing.
We're gonna need you for that aspect.
If you just, can I see participants?
Yes.
I think due to a time constraint, I think we should stick with just letting them answer their questions.
There we
No
go.
additionals, and
Okay.
keep it good.
Jay,
Can you just,
No, I was just going to weigh in. First of all, since I can't get my camera straight, I was going to have video off the whole time. My 2 cents were, I agree with Scott, you need to ask the same questions. So bottom line is, I think we just asked the 5 questions, and that's it for tonight.
okay. Do we have a general consensus around that as a group?
I'm fine with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so too. I think when we, and really the purpose of evaluating and utilizing an executive session, we'll make sure to have Ms. Archer in with us on Thursday, just to make sure that we're staying within that scope, because there are things that we can talk about and things that we can't. is really to define whether or not we're at a point that we can come out and have deliberation and decision on Thursday. In the event that there's somebody that can't, meaning they feel like they need more information, or one of those questions I foresee asking is, hey, are you down to a couple of 2 people? Do we need another round of interviews if we
Right.
need to? And that's kind of the decision-making process that we can look at to understand. And then if there are any follow-up clarifying questions to make sure that you heard the same answer from somebody else, those are some of the things that we can talk about and then we would come out here to have our deliberative process on Thursday.
Yeah, I think if it's that tight, we need to go second round, then sure.
We won't know until we know.
Until we get through them.
But I just kind of wanted to make sure we were good from there, so. Any additional questions? No? Okay,
So I guess I'm not understanding then, how would you know if you're deliberating up front and not, because you can't come up with a list or anything like that in the executive session, how would you know if it warrants a second meeting until, I guess, the deliberation happens? And then I'm imagining a second meeting would come out of, what, like,
so,
middle people, there being not enough people voting for anybody or something like that?
well, so we won't be voting, so there won't be any voting in that section. I need, it's really going to be, did you understand, or were there questions about somebody's answer, or if you were comparing answers? But what we're looking at, do you have enough information based off of what you've been given on the 8 candidates that we have, that you could come out here and make a decision, or do we need additional time in place for
What if
that?
you had a question, why wouldn't you just ask the candidate that at the time the candidate?
Because we're
came?
asking 5 questions, so that we're not asking questions to one candidate that we're not asking to another.
Well, I think that whenever you interview somebody, every person is unique. So if something comes up that you don't understand, that question isn't going to be something that you don't understand for everybody. That doesn't make sense to me.
I think
So now you're saying, oh, after we interview them, let's remember this question and go all the way back.
I think if there's a clarification, I think that's appropriate.
I think clarification is what you could ask them. I think so. If you want a clarification versus a question. Does that sound?
But the goal is to try and be consistent with everybody,
Right, I hear you.
yeah.
So the clarification, okay. So I guess I'm still trying to understand then the scope of why would there be additional, how could you determine if you get a clarifying question and you clarify, and everybody gets asked the same amount of questions and the exact same questions, what could lead to there not being a deliberation? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm following you.
Yeah.
Can you answer the question in a different format? I guess I'm
So
not following the question.
She's saying if everyone's asked the same questions.
Yeah.
And we have clarification, why would we need a second round of interviews when we received all their questions?
We don't know if we need a second round of
We don't.
interviews at this
No,
point.
she's saying why would we? Why would that be on the table?
Oh, let's say they all had the same answer, and it wasn't the answer necessarily we're looking for, or maybe we didn't have enough differentiating factors between different applicants that maybe we need different questions that maybe go further and beyond, would be one response for me. Scott?
For me, it would be a situation where 3 of us like one person, 3 of us like
Three like
another
the other.
person. And so now we need a tiebreaker in the form of second round interviews.
Okay, so when we're deliberating, you choose a person, you don't vote like yay or nay? Like you say, I vote for this person? Like how do those deliberations look
We
like?
can't vote in the exec, right?
No, I'm talking about the exec, because we're not allowed to say who we favor.
No,
or
we're
whatever.
gonna deliberate back there though.
I thought the deliberations have to be.
Deliberations are gonna be out here.
They have
We're
to be
going to
public.
be back there making sure that we have all the information
Yeah,
that we
deliberations
need
have to be public, that's
to
what I'm
do
saying.
our
So what do
deliberations
those
and
deliberations,
process.
what do those deliberations look like? Are you choosing one person, or are you going person by person saying yay or nay?
That's up to this group on
I
how
think
we
it's
wanna do it.
iterative. I think, it could start by each person saying who their top 2 candidates are, or top 3.
Start narrowing it down.
Yep.
Just start winnowing it down.
for me, like somebody in the community had asked me a question, based off of what you've seen, is there somebody, I said, no, I want to see what they say in person, and kind of go from there. I'm hoping there's a very clear choice that makes our job nice and easy. I can hope in one hand,
Right.
you know.
Okay, so the deliberations will look like, everybody comes to the table with their top two. And then from there,
Good.
well, we have until next week, I mean, we have until Thursday where there's potential deliberations. I think people are gonna want some clarity about what those deliberations look like. So is that what the executive session is gonna be used for, to determine what those deliberations look like?
And whether or not we're ready to go to deliberations that night, whether we need additional time, whether we need to ask additional questions of, maybe somebody would say, I'm not ready to make a decision on any one of the 8, and I would like X, Y, Z. That's a conversation we can have, and then come out here and say, we'd like to have further interview questions, and go from there. We're a deliberative body as a whole. Whatever a majority of this body chooses is how we're going to do it. Yes.
And also, I can see how it's getting sticky, right?
Mhm.
And there may not be clear lanes, but Charlie is gonna be here on Thursday.
Okay.
Well, she's going to be available and participating.
Okay, I thought I heard that.
Yeah, she,
Okay.
I don't know that she's still getting out just yet.
That's right.
So,
And so she's gonna let us know sort of what options there are
correct.
for
Procedural.
Yep.
deliberations. Gotcha. Okay.
Also, I could weigh in.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to, I'm sorry, Jay, we aren't able to see you, so I don't know when your hand is up.
Can you-
So,
No, you can't see me when
no,
my
so
hand's
if,
okay.
if you want to join, if you wouldn't
Well,
mind,
this-
just, instead of using the raise your hand, just turn your video back on, and when I see you, I know that you want to speak, so go ahead.
No, I was just saying on Thursday night, when we come back in, if somebody cares to nominate somebody to be a council member, that would be a way of decision after we deliberate in open session. Because open session will, certainly be, we may make points about what constitutes a good council member, what we're looking for. I hope we do when we nominate somebody, but it'll be a nomination process, and then it is a majority rules, and we may end up with a 3-3, we may end up with a 4-2, but we go from there.
So you're saying there's a motion to nominate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up here at the dais,
I like
yeah.
that.
Okay. Anything else process related? Okay. We have approximately 90 seconds, and we're gonna ask Paul to come on up, get yourself situated. We've got a spot here at the end of the table. We've got just about 2 minutes, and then we'll get started here.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul.
How you doing? Thanks for coming, Paul.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Wish it was under less smoky circumstances.
I didn't
but
hear
no,
regardless.
we do what we can.
Unfortunately, I think it's gonna get worse before it gets
I
better.
know, man. Terrible.
Okay, you were briefed on the format of what that looks like, I hope. So we're gonna give you a 2-minute opening statement. We've got 5 questions we're gonna ask you. You've got 5 minutes with each question. After that, there's a 2-minute closing statement at the end of that as well. Any questions before we get started? Perfect. I don't know if you can see it out of the corner of your eye, but there's a little green light over next to Miss Wallace. That is your timer.
Rock and roll.
So when you see it go to a orange light, you have 30 seconds.
Okay.
That will be for each one of them. When you hear a red light, we'll be out of time. I'm gonna go ahead and start and let you do your opening statement.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to serve on city council. Frankly, I would not have applied for this position if I didn't think that my prior experience with working in the city and with community service was not sufficient, because I do take this role seriously. I understand, especially in the modern day, with all the issues that Port Orchard's currently facing, that you guys are looking for somebody in particular who's not just going to use this as something on his resume, but actually has some stake in the community. And you found one with me. I've lifelong South Kitsap resident. I grew up out in Lake Flora area. My dad worked at the shipyard until actually just last Friday. I have Port Orchard in my blood. I have Port Orchard in my heart. After I graduated from my undergrad degree, I came back here because this is home. I could obviously go other places, but the interest in making my community better and using those skills locally is where my interests have lied. To that effect, I've been on the City Planning Commission for a few years, as you guys may or may not have known. It's given me a brilliant opportunity to get some insights into the issues facing the city and just how the city process works. And through that, I've learned that the city, first of all, runs things a lot better than most other cities do. I think that the ship that you guys run is a lot more tighter than I've seen in other areas I've been in. However, it also shows that there are a lot of things that could do with the extra perspective, and I hope to be able to offer that perspective. Additionally, in terms of other community service, we do run me and my partner and a few of my friends do run a community co-op, which just offers services like food and community to people who may not have it in Port Orchard. It's just about getting people more interested, getting people more involved in the city process, and just feeling like Port Orchard's a home, and I want to help make that happen. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Our first of the questions is around understanding the role. In your view, what is the proper role of a city council member, and how would you balance representing the views of your constituents with making decisions that are in the long-term best interest of the entire Port Orchard community?
Sure. I think that the job of any elected official should be quite simply to make society a better place to live. I think that there are difficulties, especially with elected positions, to do that. Obviously, like you mentioned, is balancing the rules between what the community sees as the desires versus what a elected official might believe are the best long-term decisions to be made. I think and the way that happens is obviously community involvement. If the city is closing itself off and not making itself available to public scrutiny, that sets just a bad precedent with a lot of the people. And if you're an elected official, and even if you're not an elected official, if you're a public servant in any way, shape, or form, having the community involved and having those opinions on board is an absolute necessity. Additionally, I think that being open and honest about one's views, about one's goals, about one's experience with certain issues that come up, and a full explanation of decisions that are made is also necessary. I think that a lot of people have a view of government where it's simply the politicians make their decisions, and then that's just kind of it, right? That's to a certain extent maybe why the voting turnout's so low nationwide. But I really want to break that down. I really want to be involved with people saying, like, listen, we may come from different backgrounds, we may disagree on this one issue, but one thing I can always promise is I'm going to be completely open and transparent to you as to why I made a decision, and I will weigh each decision as if it is important, because throughout a city of over 20,000 people, it is important to somebody, no matter what issue's coming up. So yeah, transparency, absolutely. Openness with the public, and just never trying to hide what you're trying to do. Never trying to hide what the ultimate goal is. I don't think that's really a direction that anybody should be going in an elected position, but that's the person I want to be in city council.
Our next question is around strengths and contribution. What unique experiences, skills, or perspectives would you bring to the city council? And how would those strengths help the council better serve the residents of Port Orchard?
Sure. I'd first like to point out my educational experience. I just graduated with a master's degree in education from Seattle Pacific University. Before that, I had a degree in world history with certificate in Spanish language and international politics from the University of Hawaii at Hilo. So there's a whole smorgasbord of educational experience, as well as cultural mediation as well. I was able to do a study abroad program for 11 months in Chile while I was there. That also gave me a great opportunity to see how governments are run in other areas, and some things that are done a little bit better here, some things that are done a little bit better there, but that's the whole point, right? Integrating those things. In terms of professional experience, I'd like to point out my several years on the Port Orchard City Planning Commission. That has been a huge opportunity for me to be able to get into the ins and outs of the city. Through that, I also was able to intern with the city's Department of Community Development for a few months and get to know exactly how that planning process works. Obviously, even from member of the public, member of city planning commission, that obviously doesn't get into the ins and outs of what happens when the rubber meets the road in city government. I have experience with that. I have experience with approval of plat processes in McCormick Woods, so I know very recent history about what's going on with that. And as well, I've been involved in many workshops, many public hearings that the Planning Commission has done, both here and at the farmers market, and those aren't official public hearings, but more like community reach out programs, but I've been involved in those. And yeah, the nuance is my game, and so that's one of the things I really love getting into, being able to explore. But yeah, I think I bring a large amount of experience, both professional, cultural, educational, absolutely.
Perfect. Next question is around managing growth.
Managing growth.
Port Orchard continues to experience significant growth. How do you believe the city should balance accommodating growth while preserving the character, quality of life, infrastructure, and financial sustainability of our community?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge one we're facing right now. The one thing I think is important to remember, which is through my experience in Planning Commission, it's been a hard thing to balance, is accepting that the growth will happen. And that's a good thing, right? We want that kind of growth. We want more people calling Port Orchard home. It brings in more economic activity. Obviously, with the shipyard, it's going to bring more people in. That's how my family got here back in the 70s, and that's how a lot of people's families are getting here. Sure, some people are in and out, but a lot of people are sticking with the community, and they add to that community. I think the best way to really manage that and understand that is to tackle it from two positions mainly. That would be housing and transportation, right? Because the issues end up being a lot of the time where the places where people work in Port Orchard, we do have a strong commercial and industrial sector here for the size of the city, I believe. But a lot of people are working in Bremerton and in Seattle as well, going across the Fauntleroy Ferry and everything like that. And so being able to work with WashDOT, especially with the highway going out to Southworth and with the highway going along through Gorse and Highway 3, being able to make sure that traffic can flow cleanly, that also doesn't take away from the infrastructure we've already planned out and built here in Port Orchard. We went through a large amount of process through the comprehensive plan that just got finished not too long ago that was focused on that, and I think that was we made a lot of good headway. And of course, WashDOT's processes that they're going through right now, we're pretty simpatico on that, which I like. Additionally, with housing is a big thing, and that is one that's probably a little bit more of a challenge. The truth of the matter is, the way that we have been building housing policy for the last, going on 80 years now in America overall is just not sustainable, right? There's only so much physical, spatial growth we can do, right, before we run into the water here, and then other cities and processes like that. I think that with the size, the geographic size that Port Orchard has right now, it is perfectly reasonable to be able to manage the increased housing with what we have now. We have the resources here, and in terms of transportation as well, Port Orchard has really good bones like that. We're on the water, we're next to the ferries, we're near commercial and industrial sectors. So the resources and the ability for us to handle these situations is absolutely there. It's a matter of how do we balance the private sector with policies that we can have here in the public sector to be able to increase that housing supply without also taking away from affordability. Because if those houses are out of reach for the people who are living and working both here and in Bremerton, then it kind of defeats the purpose. And so I kind of want to tackle it from that perspective if and when I get into city council.
Next question, around our most pressing issue. What do you believe is the most significant issue currently facing the city council, and why do you believe it deserves the council's attention?
Yeah, kind of skirted over it again, but housing is probably the biggest issue that, and it's not unique to Port Orchard. That's a Puget Sound-wide issue. But where I think that Port Orchard has a lot of opportunity here is both in geography and in demographics we have here in Port Orchard. There's a huge population of working class people that live in Port Orchard, which is different from other cities here in Kitsap County, which means that we have the opportunity here to build out an infrastructure that I think could be a model for other mid-sized cities to follow in terms of how you balance, again, that's maintaining the character of the city, maintaining the character of the downtown, while simultaneously having a more logically planned out transportation infrastructure and housing infrastructure. And we can do it, absolutely. We have the ferries here, which is something that not a lot of other cities have. We have industrial sectors here. We are pretty largely close to commercial centers, and we have a very large commercial center that's already growing here in Port Orchard in terms of the geography. So if we can focus a little bit more and work, of course, with Washington state regulations, obviously they've been working really hard with that as well, to allow different housing standards, more of that multifamily sort of middle housing that we've been looking for, not single family, not apartments, but sort of that more middle housing. Really coordinate with Kitsap Transit, who've already done some really great work, but really continuing to coordinate with them to create more rapid transit here in Port Orchard with our bus system and ferry system, managing that flow traffic that goes to the shipyard, which is a primary economic channel. But yeah, housing is one is very daunting. It's a very daunting prospect. It's not always up to city council. It's not always up to city planners. But it's one where there's a ton of opportunity for people to be looking at Port Orchard in the next 20 years and say, man, what did they do? Let's take a note out of their book. So.
Our fifth question is around fiscal stewardship. The city council is responsible for being good stewards of taxpayer dollars while meeting the community's service expectations. What principles would guide your approach to budgeting and financial and fiscal decision making?
Sure. I think that there's a perspective that a lot of the public has regarding public money, right? Regarding taxpayer money, where that sort of just goes into a sort of funnel where the city does what it does with it, and we don't really have a choice over it. And that certainly is a concern, especially for people who are living on a fixed income already. Where their taxes are going is important to them, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be involved in that. Going back to transparency, it's a huge thing. The city already does pretty good efforts to reach out, as does other local governmental organizations like Kitsap Transit. WashDOT just had their thing up at the high school where they talked about their new program. I was there to see it. It was very cool. And just continuing that outreach. Also, I think where the city sort of sometimes falls a little deficient on that outreach is meeting people where they are. Right, a lot of the time people don't have the time to come to weekday meetings and really take out of their schedule. It's a busy schedule a lot of people have. So really utilizing the farmers market more, I think, would be helpful on different public outreaches where people are already hanging out and people are already using as community spaces, really involving the city as part of the community, right? So they don't see their taxpayer dollars as simply going to this amorphous organization, but they see it as going to, oh yeah, that's the city, that helps us out. That's Public Works. I know Public Works. That's the community development. They do great work. If you can involve the city in being a part of the community and being a part of community events and really bring a human element to the city, then I think that people will be more understanding of their tax dollars being spent. I also think being cognizant and aware of the fact that people are on a fixed income and understand when taxes are spent that every bit of tax increase is another bit of burden. It's another bit of weight on the working family. So really taking ownership of that and respecting that as well. Being able to be transparent with it while simultaneously also communicating expectations is another big thing. Understanding that these services cost money, understanding that these things that the city's spending money on are public services that go back to them. But also, again, creating that human element of trying to explain that, like, yeah, this is not our money, this is your money, and we understand that, and we're cognizant of that.
That concludes the 5 prepared questions we have. Are there any points of clarification anybody has before I move on to his final statement? Seeing none, somebody online too, so just checking there. I will go ahead and turn it over to you for your 2-minute statement, closing statement.
Yeah, again, I appreciate the opportunity, and I want to stress again that I do take it seriously. And I just want to add to the Port Orchard community. That's really what I want to do. I feel like for a long time, this city has been the place that I've lived, and I've tried more and more as I've gone in my adult life to make it some place that I contribute to. That it's not just something that I occupy and places that I just go to and places I just spend my money, but places where I have a stake in. It started with just wondering what's happening with that building, or what's happening with that street, or what's going on with this business, or this, that, the other. And it fomented into just showing up to a planning commission meeting because I had very little else to do with a Tuesday, which, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's really where it starts. And I think that's that drive, that seeing Port Orchard not as just a town or, you know, a place that people spend money, but as my community and my home, and refreshing that idea, that's something that can only contribute to the city council. I think that that's what you guys would be looking for. Additionally, I think that's, while some people might consider my youth as a detriment, I consider it a strong addition to it. There are a lot of younger members of the Port Orchard community who want to be involved, but just feel so disillusioned. And I think that bringing those concerns, it's again is important if we want to be a city council that serves all the citizens of Port Orchard. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank you for taking your time, investing in our community, and spending some time with us today.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Was anything else you guys have been needing from me today?
That will be it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Have a good rest of your day.
Did we want to mention when we'll get back to him?
I'm sorry?
Did we want to mention when we'll get back to him?
No, because I don't know when we will.
Yeah. Okay.
I will have Brandy give the download to everybody once we decide. Looks like we are reconvening at 5:50 for Wayne Wright, so if you need to use the restroom, get yourself something to drink, etc. I will also just point out, there will be at one point in time, my wife is gonna pop her head in here so I can hand her this key. My dog is in my office, and she needs to go fetch my dog so she doesn't sit there all night and get that. So if I have to, I didn't think it appropriate to bring her in, so she is in my office, and my life is, my backup plan didn't work, and so we have the backup to the backup plan. So.
She services your anxiety, she's for sure servicing.
Well, now he's got anxiety because his dog.
That's
is-
all.
He's not here, yes. And, well, there was more anxiety because I wanted to leave her in the car, and I was like, but it's too hot, I can't leave her in the car. That's fine, we can record all day long, everybody can know about the love affair I have with my puppy.
He went from, like, we were no pet household until someone dumped a dog on my doorstep. He'd laugh at me, 'cause my dog goes to work with me every day. He's with me, he's not home by himself ever, really. And he'd laugh at me. Next thing you know, he goes to get his wife a dog. Now this dog goes to work with him every day.
Now, to be fair, a month and a half after we got her, we flew back, if you guys will recall, for a funeral. My wife ended up having 2 emergency surgeries,
Stop story.
and then she was gone for 8 weeks past when I came back. So me and this dog spent 24/7 together for 8 weeks as a puppy.
Sob
Well,
story.
it is, like I said, that was for my wife, it was not meant to be my dog.
Sob story.
It is on public record, I will say it for all eternity now, because it's out there, it is definitely my dog.
Hey, you look at the biggest dog softy ever right there.
I've heard that about him, I have not.
Oh, Mark is
As he turns around and looks. Uh-huh.
We used to be allowed to bring dogs into
a 100-pound
TCD.
boxer, 100-pound
Oh, can you?
We used to, we haven't tested that with the newish director up there, but yeah,
I
used to bring work.
day one, I got HR approval and hop in, yep.
We had 4 dogs at the dealership at one point today,
Wow.
running around with my baby, so, yeah.
As long as they get along.
They all did, yeah, it was a good day.
Looks like we have another planning commissioner.
Mark was on the planning commission too,
Did I see you're down to
at one point.
Did I see you're down to 1?
Okay.
I think it's a good entry point because you get so much
Oh,
land use.
Wow, so we have a whole 15 minutes?
Yeah, guess if you have the restroom.
I never use Jackson.
Whatever you want
Oh,
to
you
do.
mean Jackson?
Use the phone, restroom. Yeah.
A lot of land use experience and then also a lot of just the way government works, the workings of the government. When you come from the private sector, you have no concept of, and there is quite a difference.
I know. Scott, you have it?
Yeah.
Went a little quicker than I expected.
Well, yeah. So I was like, maybe we should have had that sixth one kind of lined up for just in case.
It's behind me, but was that ever close? Was it
Just on his opening.
time and out?
Just on his opening.
Can Wayne go early, or does he have to wait?
Well,
Because he's here.
I
your
would
thoughts
say
on that?
based on the timeline of the agenda that
we should
people
probably
might,
stay at our time.
yeah.
I'm not sure how my dog would do in my office, locked up. That would worry me. I'd be more worried about that than having him in the car. Although it's not as warm as I expected it.
It isn't either, but then it's still 80, right?
Yeah.
Even I think out here in the shade, I would have been. I'm really more worried that somebody's going to beat out my window than I am about my pup. Yeah.
I'm going to completely log out, shut down my computer and log back in and see if that works.
Yes, you got 12 minutes.
Yep. See you guys shortly.
Okay.
I wonder if we got water in there. We usually do.
You want me, John?
I'm good.
It just came from Dave Harbor, so pretty much through with that.
I was just curious.
That's right.
She's here. Good. Perfect time. I don't have to break this.
So Brandy, did you lose in rock, paper, scissors? I saw Janine leaving.
No, Megan lost.
Megan.
So it's between Janine and Megan. Yeah. Janine will be here Thursday.
Oh, switch it out? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Good seats, right?
I will put you up here in the hot seat.
It's not that hot.
You're correct.
I was telling Councilmember Debbie, I said, you realize I could have watched that whole interview and got all 5 questions and had my notes written. I told her, that's no, there's no fun in that. May as well be extemporaneous.
And somebody else brought up, I said, there's somebody could technically be watching tonight that's on Thursday. I said, they could have.
It's gonna come down to who you guys feel better.
Correct, correct.
Pretty much everybody's involved. Good. How are you doing, man? You're getting close to going.
Be better Monday.
Yeah.
I think.
Will you?
I don't know. I mean, this is my 10th one, and I'm not better yet. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I know I'm gonna honestly though I'm gonna be like real aggressive on like therapy, everything. I'm gonna like do like.
You aggressive on therapy?
I know. Even like I brought to, I don't know, recording, but whatever. I brought to my surgeons even the letter from my physical therapist. He said, we're done with it. You know what I'm saying? I did all of it. I mean, and then some, like, so, you know. But we'll talk about it.
I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. That's this whole project story in itself.
About a letter saying,
Thank you.
he said, we're done. It's not therapy.
I resisted that until I got those
That's my
3
shot.
keys down. And I looked out there and I got more angry looking at that spin disallow and.
I see it didn't work, Jay.
Yeah, it opened it up quite a bit.
No, it did not, but I'm still here.
Okay.
It's still upside down.
He is.
Yeah, and Brandy, I think I'll be talking to you next week. Might be time for a new computer. Could somebody say something, because I can't hear you anymore?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, okay, it was just
We're
quiet.
just quiet. We're just quiet.
All right, thank you.
I think we also learned a lesson for future iterative.
Actually,
Don't put timestamps on there.
Actually, though, Jay, can you hear these cameras real well? Or these microphones?
Yeah, I can hear pretty well.
Good.
It'd be better if it was a little bit closer to the person
Yeah, we can't move them.
we're interviewing, but otherwise I can hear everything.
We could move
The table.
move the tables.
No, we can move that table out and slide down a little bit, and that'll give the presenter 3 feet.
Put them right here.
Yes.
What do you think?
But I can hear things really well.
Let's do it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good. That's why we asked.
Information.
That's why we asked for the feedback.
Yeah, I can, I heard Paul very well, though.
Mm-hmm.
24, 2024. Not crazy about 99, no, I just happened to know that because it was right before Thanksgiving. So, and 24 in the year of 24. So
Tough one.
easy for me to remember.
Hunt it back 2 days.
Yeah.
You seem to
Fair enough.
Sometimes the answers just.
Not necessarily, because it took me a minute to really remember one of my brother's birthdays.
That's tougher.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Siblings is.
The other two dogs we had before this, I didn't know.
Well, I think a lot of it is because it's more present in
Yeah.
your mind currently.
Yeah, it's
Also.
probably true.
We slid down just a little bit, so the speaker could speak into the microphone closer. Oh, no, you're good. I was saying as far as, I kind of slid all this down a little bit.
Okay.
We removed that table out, so that was the feedback from the Zoom people.
Oh, okay. My only note is it's so different seeing somebody's resume and hearing somebody talk about their resume. It's like,
Right?
yeah, it's like night and day.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Some people don't do well with resumes and they're great speakers and vice versa.
Oh, some people are just great speakers. Yeah, very well trained.
Some people just need training in how to do anything.
I could use a lot of training.
I can always use training.
I could use a lot of training on that.
There's never enough.
I watched the video, I watched the council meetings.
Oh, look, he figured it out. Attaboy.
Are you now hanging from the ceiling?
She put IT requests in.
We're all upside down now.
I'll watch.
That'll make my life a lot easier, so
I'll watch
thank you.
council meetings over
Are you
again.
hear us okay, Jay?
And realize that
I'm right side up
I
now.
can't even hear
Yeah.
myself.
Good.
And so I'm like,
Wayne, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to come up
so
to
I'm like, I gotta do this, I gotta yell
the
like
table
this.
here.
I don't know. Like,
When you should have been briefed
I'll put them.
by the city clerk on a little bit of the format for this evening.
Yes, I am.
Just to remind you, we're gonna start with a 2-minute opening statement. Out of the corner of your eye, now that we've moved the table, it's not gonna be quite as corner of your eye.
I won't need to.
You won't need it, okay. There will be that, and then we have a set of 5 questions we're gonna ask. We've budgeted about 5 minutes. I'm not gonna cut you off at 5 minutes, but I'm gonna keep a timer just so that you know. I will just say, hey, we have met that 5-minute mark because you may wanna use that in some of the other points, and that's fine. And then you get the 2-minute closing statement as well. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
With that being said, if our timekeeper's ready, we will go ahead and start with your opening statement.
Well, thanks for having me here this evening, and I appreciate this opportunity to meet you folks. My name is Wayne Wright. In my cover letter, kind of gave you a big overview of kind of how long I've been here and what I've been up to. But the reason I'm here is I pretty much love this city and love this community, and I've been a part of it, a big part of it, for many years. So, stepping away from Rotary a year ago or so, I poured myself into the Planning Commission, and then when the unfortunate situation with Heidi arose, I asked myself the question, am I, one, interested, and 2, do I want to jump into this? So I've watched a whole bunch of your meetings. I think there's, I can help in some ways. Some ways we have to do it together regardless of what I can do. So I've been a business owner. I've been a community participant, from coaching to planning commission and whatever else. So with that, I'll let you guys fire away. Also, if you have questions, if I say something during the question and answers, I prefer iterative. So if you have questions of me, please, I don't mind being interrupted.
we're gonna do our best not to do that.
I know you
We're also
won't,
gonna
but-
try and stay within the same questions so that we're asking everybody, but if we do have points of clarification,
Please do.
we will. With that, we're gonna move straight into the first question, which is around understanding the role. In your view, what is the proper role of a city council member? And how would you balance representing the views of your constituents with making decisions that are in the best long-term interest of the entire Port Orchard community?
Good question. Well, the role of a council member is to work as a council member, not an individual, but as a council member. We will debate options, ideas, thoughts, issues, projects, whatever that is, fully, honestly, openly, to come up with the proper path forward, whether that's a budget, or do we do this project now or later, or can we tweak this project or not? Does this community need something special or not? That's how we do things, and you reach consensus, and once that consensus is reached, you support that consensus. That's the way it works. We're a body of one, we represent the entire community, and my view will be my view. I will certainly speak my view, but if one of you don't agree with me, or the majority doesn't agree with me, that's okay. I said my view, it's on the record, people can listen to it, they know where I stand. As far as the overall community versus my constituents, I kind of view Port Orchard as all my constituents, honestly. I live in McCormick Woods, as many of us do. I'm very active in McCormick Woods with my time and my community, but I see a lot of activity, need, and management for all of Port Orchard, so I don't see that as I don't really differentiate that so much, if that makes sense. So.
Question 2, strengths and contribution. What unique experiences, skills, or perspectives would you bring to the city council? And how would those strengths help the council better serve the residents of Port Orchard?
Well, that's a good question as well. I started my career as a firefighter, and after the last couple of months watching the council meetings, I'm kind of glad I've got that high active, get out of the way when the tree starts burning and falling kind of mentality. So staying calm under pressure, I think, is number one. I've led big groups, I've led small groups, I've done big things and little things. I've spoken on national stages and small stages. So I think being a calm, supportive individual with a leadership style that can flex as needed is important. We don't need everybody to be bulldogs. We don't need everybody to be mice. We need people to flex and move around and do the dance of management, if you will. So that's something that I bring. I have a lot of knowledge of what the cities do, having been a consultant for cities, counties, states, governments. So I've been in these settings, not being on the dais per se, but I understand how it works. So bringing a unique perspective of what other cities may have done, not that we want to do it that way, but just how they've done it, so maybe some other perspectives or ideas on considerations. I tend to be very creative on stuff like that, whether it's a project for the Rotary Club or something along those lines. It's finding a solution. I'm not quick to go to no. I'm quick to find a solution. Is my style. Let's see. I write very well as well. I've done a lot of editing, a lot of writing. The comp plan amendment, the critical areas ordinances, I spent hours going through those documents for the city, marking them up, adding my technical expertise. And many of my comments weren't accepted for a variety of reasons. And again, I'm sitting here not upset about it. It's how it works. So flexibility and acceptance of what the role is important. But other things, I know many of you personally. I wouldn't say we're bosom pals, but I know most of you. I know the mayor. So it's not like I'm coming at from a perspective of not understanding who Jay is or who you are. It's, let's get to business. So I guess I'm ready to go. I don't need a whole bunch of ramp up to get there. I know Robert's Rules of Order very well. I practice it. I have read it. I've actually taught it. So I'm okay with, and I support Robert's Rules of Order fully. I hope I answered your question there.
Next question's around managing growth. Port Orchard continues to experience significant growth. How do you believe the city should balance accommodating growth while preserving character, quality of life, infrastructure, and financial sustainability for our community?
That's a great question, and one that I have strong opinions about. You've got one really good piece of web page presence, and that's the Public Works Projects page. Whoever did that, give them a gold star. It needs some tweaks, but you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've got 11 projects ongoing between now and 2027 getting started. 11. That's crazy. I mean, it's exciting, but it's a massive undertaking, especially where it's centered around Old Clifton, Bethel, Sedgwick, Sydney. There's going to be a tangle of traffic like nobody's business. We've got to communicate that effectively to the people. We need to have websites, much like the one that started, but it's got to have almost a WashDOT kind of feel where they put the budgets in it, the schedule, the phases, who the contractor is, specifically who the contact is. We almost want to think about even a PR person to manage some of this stuff so we can get it out there proactively, so people know when things are going to happen. We can't just start cutting roads and have people stumble on and go, I'm stuck on Bethel again? I didn't know this thing was going on. And I've heard that a lot. Signs with a QR code that people can click on and say, this is what's going on here. We've got to make it easy for the public to understand what's going on. Financially, these projects are not cheap. A lot of times you have to take out a loan, so managing a loan and interest and all that is good. But when it gets down to the bottom line is the city's on the hook for it, and if taxes are involved, most of the people I know in Port Orchard are not a big fan of more taxation. So I think we got to be very frugal about this. The other thing I like to think of for the future as well is we cut a road open, is there an opportunity for optimization? Can we drop in a conduit for future high-speed internet or some other communications wire or something under the road while it's open? Should just be standard practice. And can we optimize stormwater, so rather than running it all down to Bay Street, if it's coming down Bethel, for example, can we pocket it and get it into Blackjack Creek sooner, bleed it into the environment, reduce the flooding downstream? I have direct experience and knowledge of that, kind of an expert of it actually. So communication, awareness, phasing, sequencing, all that stuff's got to be brought in, and it's really got to be transparent out there. That's why I looked at that website today. I thought that's where I would go with this, take that and build it out. The other thing that's nice about that website is it has the WashDOT projects, Kitsap County project was on there, and then the water utility project was on there, but very little detail. So hot links that go right to the plans and even the supporting documents would be a wonderful idea, so people can dig in if they want to. It'll help you with open process of public meetings as well. I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head. I probably burned up more time than I thought, but you hit me in a good spot. I love that stuff. I have supervised, I've designed culvert replacements, road jobs, stormwater. So I've got a lot of experience in managing and actually monitoring those projects as well, and then mitigating for them if they damage the environment.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, perfect. Our next question's around our most pressing issue. What do you believe is the most significant issue currently facing the City Council? And why do you believe it deserves the Council's attention?
Well, there's short-term and long-term things in my mind. Heidi's departure is unfortunate. It's a bad look on all angles. I think that's the immediate pressing thing that I think the council needs to consider how to best go forward, showing advancement, recognition, teamwork, representation. From a short-term perspective, I think that's your biggest issue right now, because I was here the night the crowd was there and all that. And, I didn't come to speak, I came to listen and watch. Long-term, I think it's going to go right back to that infrastructure. We got a lot of growth. We're looking at water drought, water shortages, and telling people to cut back on water, but you go to McCormick Woods and all this land is getting houses put on it. And I'm hearing, why are we building these houses if we don't have water for the people we have now? So you get the communication gaps and the awareness perception gaps. That growth in infrastructure that's gonna be a huge challenge. So once we get over the initial hiccup that the council has right now, I think managing that infrastructure and doing it wisely and fiscally responsible, because that could be a huge pitfall if we blow that, are gonna be your biggest issues. And I have not looked at any of the other committee meetings as far as that goes, but I would hope that those topics are being discussed in infrastructure and transportation as far as communications and how to manage it. So that's my guess.
Yep.
I will say that I've worked with staff. I think the staff is crackerjack here. I think you've got that stuff settled. The business issues that were in the paper, I think that's come along a long way. Keep pushing in the right directions there, because we don't want to go backwards with the community service, getting businesses permits, keeping things rolling, good understanding. I think you're on the right direction. Just don't stop. The bigger issues are the two I talked about, the short term and the long term. That's my feeling.
Our next question is around fiscal stewardship. The city council is responsible for being good stewards of taxpayer dollars while meeting the community's service expectations. What principles would guide your approach to budgeting and financial decision-making?
Well, you got to balance the need with the money you have, and if you don't have the money, how are you going to get it, and how are you going to get it at the least possible cost, and how are you going to pay it back with the least possible interest? So it's a matter of the same thing we do at home. You got a budget, you got to work with it. If the budget's not big enough, you have to ask the question, do we find more revenue or do we stop spending money? I'm a proponent for the middle of the ground. I think we've got to spend money to make money, we've got to spend money to grow. We can't stop growing. But by that same token, we can't just start spending money like we're the federal government. We need to be mindful of where we are. So I call it sequencing and categorization of projects that are our highest priority for the city of Port Orchard. And it could be Bethel, it probably is Bethel. You know, Tremont was a big choke point, but it was a good precursor to Bethel. Let's face it, Bethel and Sydney are the two big monsters we gotta tackle. But the Bay Street flooding and issues are still not gonna be there if we don't think about that a little bit differently. So it's about balancing the budget and keeping that budget. I am not a fan of breaking a budget. If a contractor comes in over budget, there better be really good reasons for it. And we better find ways where he can fix it or find ways to optimize it. I'm also a big fan of bundling projects. It was my idea for WashDOT to start putting the fish passage projects in bundles and regions. We're doing 2 or 3 right now along here. They didn't do that a few years, about 10 years ago, but 5 or 6 years ago, I went to them and said, why don't you get one contractor to do all these projects? Because they're already staged. MOB cost is huge. They're right there. Just have them leapfrog along project to project to project. And they save millions of dollars. And they do that now. They bundle their projects. So that came from my desk to theirs. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of partnering with the county. The county has resources. We have an interlocal agreement with the county. I'm a big fan of leveraging that where we can. Again, watching the counties spend as well, because the government isn't always our best friend. And in McCormick Woods, we have the developer doing interlocal agreements with us as well, so that there's some impact fees and some things that a private entity can do when it's contracted properly to save us some money. So there's a lot of tools in that toolbox that we can explore. But I guess the bottom line is, when we set a budget, I'm a budget maintenance guy. I'm not a fan of breaking budgets. Better be a dang good reason.
I've reached the end of my 5 questions. Any points of clarification for Wayne?
No wonder this goes so fast.
So, I'm going to turn around and offer you your 2-minute statement at this point, Wayne.
I'll ask you some questions if you don't mind.
I'm not sure that we're going to be able to respond,
Okay.
but
Okay.
we have 2. I'm sorry?
Do we all agree that that's how we wanna go?
That's why I
Well,
didn't.
I've got time, so I thought I didn't prepare them off the top of my head.
Well, I just wanna keep the process similar for.
Okay.
for each person. That's why I said I don't think, we didn't do it for the last person.
But that's because they didn't ask.
Yeah, they didn't ask.
So
You are
should they,
correct.
it's
That's
because they
valid.
didn't think to ask? I don't know if
I'm not
that's,
against answering questions.
I know, I don't. It's
So I'm
an
hearing
idea.
two.
You have 4 different answers, 5 different answers.
And I would expect some of that, that's fine, that's fine, we'll go there. So I guess, and to sum it up a little bit, I bring energy. I'm not a low energy kind of person, but I am not disruptive with my energy. My style is to listen carefully, to have my opinions, get my opinions out, listen to other opinions, and then modify my opinions if necessary or if warranted. Come to consensus and move on. The sooner we can come to consensus on things, the better things go, the faster we make decisions, and then we stay sane, if you will, without running till midnight on projects. I'm a big fan of knowing where our resources are in the city. Who are and what are the big workhorse elements? And how do we leverage them better? So I know Nick Bond pretty well. I know Jim Fisk pretty well. I don't know the Public Works Director as well yet. But when Larry Curls was here, he and I were really tight. I did a lot of work with the city of Port Orchard and Larry Curls on the shoreline, this building, the precursor for planning for this building I helped him with. So there's talent there. Using staff talent is super important. And it's not our job to tell them what to do per se. It's our job to ask the right questions that stimulate them to go a little different direction. So I think that's an important piece. So I've read all the expectations of the role. I accept them. I think I can make it work. I tend to be punctual and I tend to participate. I do travel. I am mostly retired. So I will definitely be zooming in once in a while. But for the most part, I'm prepared to go.
Perfect.
Is that it?
Yeah, Wayne, I want to thank you for your time and your interest in the position. Thank you for coming forward to serve your community.
Oh, yes.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. Glad you like my backyard. That's a story we'll tell.
You can't hit a golf ball in Wade's backyard. Hey, you can't hit a golf ball in his backyard.
Yeah, you put a
You're-
golf ball in my backyard, you're gonna mean to do it.
No shot.
No,
It's
but
in
a
backwards.
but a lefty could.
No, you'd have to want to do it. It'd be a direct
lefty.
90-degree. Anyway, thank you
I'll
guys.
see you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Good luck with the rest of the interviews.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we could have, before we ever started, we could have said 2 minutes if you have a question for us, or you have a closing statement or something, but we didn't do that, so we'll stay consistent.
Yeah, I like that we stayed that way, just to remain consistent. Additionally,
For what it's worth,
Charter for Flex, sixth question.
for what it's worth, I'm glad you didn't allow to ask questions, because, it's a little bit different with the company, since we all have our own different view.
Correct, correct.
Would have been a slippery slope.
Yeah, and who do I allow to answer and
How do you
and
answer
take
it?
his time,
And,
right?
and there's 6 people here. How do you answer 6 questions in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
It's going well. We've got a lot of information. So. All right, see you guys in about 5.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Could be him. Devil. Yeah. Is that on purpose? Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, everything about you is in your upper half.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. That is for sure.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
What's funny is like my legs are not small, but they are compared to the rest of my body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
I can't even do a pen.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm gonna do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's so funny though. It's like, it's funny when people like,
Where the heck was I, Scott? I had a question for you about what are they doing over there? And now I'm drawing a complete blank of where I was and what I was looking at to see what, it was in the county. I was,
Public Works project, or?
no, I don't know that it was a public works project. I'm trying to think of what it was now, or even where I've been recently.
that's for sure. If you saw anything in the public works project, you could not have seen really.
Do you only do public work projects?
Oh, no, he doesn't
No.
do.
I was gonna say, I didn't,
He doesn't do public works projects.
We will review them for permits, of course.
Yeah, I'm saying if you saw a county vehicle, it was a public works vehicle. No, there's no work being done out there that's not from public works.
Oh, no, like it was a development, I assume he would, like somehow I decide that Scott knows every permit available in Kitsap County and.
How about,
So I know, the other day I spent a good chunk of time in Silverdale on Friday last week, but I can't remember where I was that I'm trying to think of.
how about Dickey Road, that development up there?
Yeah, Stormridge?
Whoa, like I signed them off last week. The amount of condos, townhouses, like,
Where's Dickey Road?
oh, you mean Society?
He made
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, it's, so the road approach going up was so steep that when they did it, I drove by and I went, no shot.
No, they had to
They
redo
paved
it.
it, everything, they had to redo it. I was like,
Yeah, they
I
passed
literally
it.
called, I was like, yeah, no kidding. Like, there's
There's
no,
still got
there's
some
no
challenges
shot.
with,
Who signed that off? Like, you know,
nobody signed it off.
no one signed it off.
Yeah.
But they did on the designs though. They
Yeah.
did it per design.
Yeah, and they tried
But
hard to get around that.
the velocity of that water,
Yeah.
nothing got caught.
It'll be interesting in the wintertime if it freezes up at places.
How's this? The amount of landscaping in that development is nightmare. I mean, there's no shot, there's no chance that HOA is gonna pay anybody to weed that entire place. I mean, it's massive. These are 3-story townhouses, and they're like 6-packs?
It's got a mix of housing types in it throughout.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, there's townhomes, yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be, how many homes total and how many doors?
It was originally, I think, something like 700 or something.
Oh, it's gotta be, no, it will, and it's all on a hillside. It's gonna be, it'll probably close to 850 probably. I bet they'll squeeze them in there.
So I want to say this while we're talking about it. I want us, as a full body group, to go out in a van and have these discussions in our community.
So
There are some things going in some developments now that I'm like, why did we think this was a good way to landscape this?
Well, I think, he and I have had that a few times, zero lot lines. Paulsbo's zero lot line community, super cool. I want that. I want something like that. I wanna offer something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Condos just, they cost so much money. It's like triple the insurance for a condo. You know, more than 2 doors, you know, 3 or more. Your insurance is astronomical. Zero lot line, there's really no difference. They're just not touching. They have their own parcel number on own tax ID, this and that.
Yeah.
Paulsbo's really good at doing things like that. Paulsbo welcomes different types of housing. They get creative out there.
They are pretty creative. I think they have, they have a stronger budget, of course, but, they've done some really neat things with the, pre-approved ADU package.
They have a little village. They have an ADU village.
Yeah, they're also looking at, trying to get through KRCC some pre-approved duplexes and fourplexes.
Yes.
And they've got some, examples of where that's worked really well. A little spendy what they've done with some of those.
Yeah.
But you can, you change some things a little bit quick.
That
But they look nice.
the KBA bus tour,
Yeah?
it was a good one. Like it really showed you the different types of housing, and some development challenges off of Wagga Way out there, right?
Yeah.
Which we've spent a ton of time out there. So there's a lot of challenges, but they have it's one package, the apartment complex, right? With a little mini community area plus the
Yeah.
housing development. I mean, the part that I don't like about that is it's off a state highway, and I don't think they required enough the traffic. You know what I'm saying? Pulling in, pulling out, the amount of houses there.
Yeah.
They should have a whole set off for pulling in and pulling out, and I think that'd been more a little safer, more encouraged doing that. But I thought that when it was a driving range,
Yeah.
let alone a housing development. So
Yeah, that one was, kind of a mess. Yeah.
also they
Yeah.
act creative out there.
They do. They've got, and Ed's really good. He's a great mayor.
He has the energy.
He does. He has a lot of energy. He's got a lot of depth.
Yes.
He's wanting to, we've got these county UGA pockets that surround it, like 4 or 5 or 6. He's finally wanting to take those over because we have an agreement with Paulsville, the county does, that we have to review permits in those UGAs against their code. And so what that means is we
You're
call
owning
their
it.
planners and we
Yeah.
say, tell us what you want this to say, because you're familiar with your own code.
Just
we're
hand
not.
to them and compensate them for their hours.
And they get back to
Yeah.
us, but it doesn't fit SmartGov either when you do it that way.
That's why I'd almost just give it to them and
Well,
say,
that's what we wanna do. And so
bill
Ed is-
us your hours.
Yeah. And so there's some willingness to engage in that, which is cool, because the agreement is,
Well-
the agreement was completed in 2002.
Ed is
2001.
a communicator.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
Ed Stern. He's a communicator.
What is zero lot lines?
zero lot lines are,
Townhomes,
they're townhomes that don't touch.
row homes.
They have their own
Okay.
parcel number, their own tax ID number, their own.
But they don't share a wall.
They do not share a wall.
Yeah,
So-
they're attached, but they've got this envelope that's kind of dead space that
When they wanna replace their
And we
roof,
don't allow that here?
when the,
I think we do,
Oh,
yes.
I think you do.
Okay.
But when,
Yeah.
when one wants to replace their roof, they don't have to. They wanna paint theirs purple, they don't have to paint
Yep.
theirs purple, right? Where a condo, you have to agree on what you're doing.
There's
In
no
your,
two ways.
in a condo, your insurance is astronomical versus these, it's not. You know, these is just a single dwelling insurance policy. So it's different, but yeah, Paul's just putting in a rack of those right now and it's,
What's going on up there at, just before Bond Road, 305, between Viking Way and Bond Road, on the north side of 305 there? Do you know?
I've been out there the last couple of days. I better look better. I've been out there.
Oh, it's pretty obvious. It
Are
was
they
to
turning
me.
dirt?
Oh, yeah.
North side of Bond Road.
No, between Viking Way and Bond Road, on 305, go between the stoplights.
Yeah.
So off to the
Oh, I
north
haven't been
side.
in that area there. I just go all the way around up to Suquamish lately. Been out there. So I'm not sure. Do you know? You'd have to know. That's county. Where
Viking Way goes across 305.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then where Bond Road cuts off 305. So that section there, where the welcome to Paulsville sign is
Yeah.
to, on your way to Bainbridge,
Yeah.
they turned a lot of dirt on the north side of that.
oh my goodness gracious. Yes. Yeah. Is
Is that county?
no, yeah.
Yeah, it's
It is?
Yeah, I think is that Tribe developing out there? Is that Tribe? Are
I
they
don't think,
I'm gonna bring Joel in.
out towards Suquamish, going towards Bainbridge?
no. It's on 305. Just as you cross, you get up the freeway and you cross Viking Way.
Correct.
From there down the hill to the double lane Bond Road turn.
The road shop is right there.
Right,
Mhm.
so between that stoplight and the Viking Way stoplight up the hill.
Sound
Yeah.
comfortable?
I don't know. I'm there tomorrow. I'll swing in. How are you?
I'm okay. Just a little limping a little bit.
Uh-oh.
I think I broke my toe, but
Uh-oh, not on your way here, hopefully.
no,
Okay,
a couple days ago. I get an X-ray tomorrow.
yeah, I did something about 2 weeks ago with my thumb that's still out of whack, and I did not go get it
Oh.
x-rayed, and now I'm regretting that decision.
I mean, we kind of all know they're gonna say ice it, tape it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not all we can do.
Not a lot we can do. Yeah.
Jewel, you should have gotten an email from the clerk's office talking about the format for this evening.
Yes.
But just as a refresher, we're about to get kicked off. We're gonna give you a 2-minute opening statement time. We've got 5 questions. We've got approximately 5 minutes listed for, set aside for each question. I won't stop you at the 5 minutes. I will just let you know we're at 5 minutes in case there was a question you wanted to spend a little more time with versus one that you didn't.
Okay.
And then we'll have time for a 2-minute closing statement as well. I don't know if you're gonna quite be able to see it out of the corner of your eye, but right over there next to Miss Wallace is the light.
No.
And the green
Oh,
light means you're
okay.
good to go. If you catch it yellow, that shows you that you have 30 seconds left, and then red, I'm just gonna kind of say, we'll need to wrap that up right now. We
Okay.
haven't had that need for that. And before I truly kick off, actually, I'm just gonna hand this over and make sure, you take care of that for me, in case it's time sensitive. Let's go ahead and kick it off and say that you can use your opening statement.
Okay, well, hello everyone. My name is Jewel Shepherd Sampson. I was born and raised in Bremerton, actually, at the Old Navy Hospital. I come from a military background. My parents are originally from Texas, and I really actually grew up between Bremerton half the time and then Port Orchard most of the time. So most of my formative years were in Port Orchard. I loved living in a smaller town, compared to Dallas, where my parents were from. And I've seen major growth. You know, I was, this is the 90s and 2000, and there's been so much growth across Port Orchard. And I think now, more than ever, it's just time to get involved. I've been involved a lot across Kitsap, mainly Bremerton, mainly youth stuff, but in the last 2 years, I've been really focused in on civics and introducing young people to civics. So I am really excited and thankful for this opportunity. You're welcome.
Well, thank you for that opening statement. So our first question revolves around understanding the role. In your view, what is the proper role of a city council member, and how would you balance representing the views of our constituents with making decisions that are in the long-term best interest of our entire Port Orchard community?
Okay, I have notes here and I have to write.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm a doodler. So I think it's important that each of the roles everyone in their role understands that representation is always key. And so when you're representing the larger community, sometimes you have to be a little bit careful about perspective and how you address things with people. Some people require a little bit more of a gentler, I would say, a more gentle response, and others you can actually be a little bit more transparent with. I love the word transparency because I'm a truth teller and I value honesty and integrity. However, I've noticed in civics, transparency does not always mean you will hear what you want to hear. And sometimes that's hard for people. We have the understanding, I think it goes back to customer service, right? The customer is always right. It's not so much that in politics and in government, you know, we have to strive to be more compromising and more of a mediator than the need to be right. And so I think that the position requires a lot of compromise, flexibility, also just being kinder to one another. I am a person that I have very strong beliefs sometimes, but as I've grown up and got to be around more people, I understand that my belief is no different than their belief. And sometimes it's just about understanding people's stories and their lived experience that helps you sometimes maintain, maybe you shouldn't say that. You know, I strongly believe in that. When I was younger, I can't say that I did that so much. I used to just say, well, I have a right to my First Amendment. We all have a right to the First Amendment. But we want to make sure that when we're delivering anything, we try to go the route of being kind. You can be direct, but you can be kind in the same way. So I think that's important. I also think that it's important to understand engagement, and engagement requires listening to people, understanding their needs, and helping restore trust in public process. A lot of what happens in local government is not so much, it's sometimes stemmed from outside sources, right? And so collectively we have media, we have anxiety, we have what people are living through currently, not having the ability to make ends meet, that drives up anger and frustration. And so a lot of times when people are upset, they're not really upset at the issue, they're more upset that they're not being heard. And so I think that is very important. I think that's it. Oh, fiscal responsibility. I think fiscal responsibility goes back to accountability with me. And I don't claim to know everything, but I do know how to read, I know how to research, and I know how to find an answer. So there's never a time where I will say, oh, I don't know, and that's the end. I think that's the rudest answer that someone can give, especially when you have access to resources that other people don't have. So that would be my answer.
Perfect, thank you.
I was trying to see if I could see the light, but I can't.
I can't, you're doing fine on
Okay.
time. In fact, I lost her to catch the reset, but I'm gonna keep an eye out for you.
Okay.
The second question that we have for you revolves around your strengths and contribution.
Mm-hmm.
So what unique experience, skills, or perspectives would you bring to the city council, and how would you use those strengths to help the council better serve the residents of Port Orchard?
Well, I think I bring a strong sense of civic responsibility. I mentioned integrity earlier. I've been told my integrity level is too high, and I laugh at that, to be in public service specifically, because I think that's where you should have higher integrity. A commitment to listening to people. I have the thought that effective leadership starts with being humble, humility, accountability, and a willingness to hear different perspectives before you make a decision. Now, I know that time doesn't always warrant that, but in the sense of the city council, we have that time to do that with each other. And I think that when people bring their different concerns from different constituents that they talk to, I think the biggest thing that moves the needle forward is just being able to listen. You know, not to respond to what we think someone is saying, but to truly listen. My strength is really connecting people. I think I've been involved in communities since I was a really young kid. I went to church at Emmanuel Apostolic in Bremerton, and they had me, involved in everything from bake sales to, I did everything. Around the age of 12, 13 years old, I started doing public speaking. I had this opportunity to speak. I used to do this MLK highlights of a dream speech. And I remember thinking in my head, I want to be like Pastor Robertson. Like, I see how people command attention, that he commands attention from people. I want to do that. And so I told him, and he said, okay, well, you have to be ready. Whenever I call you, you need to be ready. I will never forget this because I was so scared. And he called me one day, I think I was 14 or 15 years old, and he said, hey, I want to take you with me to go do, I think it was a Black History program at one of the ships, the Camden. And I was like, okay. He goes, make sure you're dressed for success. So I knew I had to have a suit on. This is Pastor Robertson's ode. And I get there, and it's like 5,000 people on a ship that I've never been on. I was when I was little, but I didn't remember. And I remember being terrified in that moment, but also being ready because I had been trained from a young kid that I need to be ready. So I did the speech, and Sunday came, and there was like 3 rows of these young men there. And my dad said, okay, so maybe we should not have her go speak on ships. Maybe she could do something else in the community. So that makes me laugh all the time when I think about it. But during that time, I did not realize right away that I was being prepped for today. There are other things that happened in life throughout the process. I talked about lived experience earlier. I think lived experience helps shape who I am today because I can relate to other people's struggles. I moved out when I was 16 years old. It was really, really hard. I faced some challenges. I got in trouble with the law, and now I'm on the police advisory board, and I help guide kids to make better decisions. I think it's important because when you just tell them not to do something and they think that you are in the moment forever, you've been in this moment forever, they tend to not listen. And I was that kid before. So I love being in spaces with youth. I think youth really, we're all just big youth. And I think sometimes when you can cater to the youth in someone, you can actually get along a little bit better. Some of this stuff is really difficult to deal with. When we talk about different needs in community, housing and food scarcity, and being in a position to now have people come to me for answers, I don't always have the answer right away, but I can always find a resource. And I appreciate being able to find a resource. It helps build connection in the community, connection with different community organizations. I was so excited about and I knew I was gonna get the name wrong. I'm very forgetful, so I write everything down. But the police department, the program they have now so that they're able to, help someone with one night's rent or not rent, hotel stay. Yes, Blue Bridge, thank you. It was just on the page a couple days ago, yes. So I think that's awesome because sometimes all someone needs is just a little time to get it together. And I think that we need to be a little bit more apathetic and empathetic to people in their situations. Also, I think that I bring a voice to people who might be underserved. There is a lot of grumblings within government, and it's across the board. It's not just Port Orchard, it's everywhere. And being able, okay, just being able to tap in and say, hey, this is how you do something, goes a lot further than the expectation of people knowing how to do it.
And that's one quick follow-up. Do you think Pastor Robin, big loss to our community?
Yeah.
Do you think he commanded it or he earned it?
He earned it. Yeah, he earned it.
Too.
Yeah, and he's from Texas, and I went to the same junior high that he went to. That, I was so proud of that. For 6th grade, half of my 6th grade year. Yeah.
Our next question is around managing growth. Port Orchard continues to experience significant growth. How do you believe the city should balance accommodating growth while preserving the character, quality of life, infrastructure, and financial sustainability of our community?
Ooh, you want me to solve that today? Okay. Well, so I do have experience on the Puget Sound Regional Council Board. I've done that for about 5 years. That's the Equity Board. In the last year, I joined as an alternate for the Transportation Policy Board. And it is a lot of information. But I remember when I first started attending Puget Sound Regional Council meetings, I kept saying, why is Kitsap getting left out of the money? Why do they keep skipping over us? And so in this role, it's allowing me to understand how that process goes. The Equity Board gives a little bit to special projects and being able to formulate special projects for people who can't otherwise get in. Port Orchard would be one of those groups because according to the disparity map, we're there. But when I was looking at the Growth Management Act, that's a tough question because there isn't an easy answer. Being that I grew up here, I remember what it used to be like when I was younger. And I loved the mom and pop feel. I loved going and buying Laffy Taffies for 5 cents. They're like 75 to $1 now for the same square. So I love that. I loved when people knew who you were. As we continue to grow, that changes. The home feel is not quite there all the time. At the same time, we have to recognize that change is needed, growth is needed. And when we open the doors to growth, we have the opportunity to build a better Port Orchard. How do we do that with the challenges that we have? Like I researched this, the urban growth areas, and I thought, man, so I understand because the area that I'm in, you know, there's people who say they want to pick who they live by. I don't think that's fair, but I think they have the right to feel that way. I think when we look at it, people could be more community-minded and community-driven if they have the opportunity to understand processes. So when they say, oh, well, I'm not doing, I could use the example that we had about bonds yesterday, to understand that, well, it's a tax, and the tax is this much. But saying percentages versus the actual amount deters people because you already said the word tax. And so it's like, I think that when you bring things to a human level and a basic level, you can get more done. All these pages of the Growth Management Act have some good stuff in them, have some not so good stuff in it, because all of it is being based on larger municipalities. And so it's like, well, if they want us to do this, do we just say we're not going to do it and then miss out on all the money? I say we lean in and we use what we know, the tools that we know. So if we need people to go to campaign for to the state and say, well, we don't really like this part of the Growth Management Act and it affects us this way, look at the data. This is the data we have. They love data. And when you give them data, they can't dispute it. I think making sure that housing affordability, zoning maps, density rules, neighborhood planning, those are all influenced by the GMA requirements. But I also know that with those requirements, you have to think about staffing, capability, and capacity, cost, of course. And then going back to the bonds, if you make the decision to do a bond, how you spend it and why you have to spend it is really important. Because sometimes I hear people say, oh, well, they're tearing that street up again and it's fine. And it's like, well, if you knew you would be fined, you know, 100,000 if you didn't do it, you might think differently. So I just have this goal that it's important to get more people involved. Excuse me. They say they want a bigger voice in the city council and the decisions that are made, but they have to show up to do that. So.
Our next question is, what do you believe is the most significant issue currently facing the city council, and why do you believe it deserves the council's attention?
Let me see, because I wrote this down. I had a feeling you were going to ask me this. So some of the things that I looked at when I just thought, hey, they might want to know what people are saying. People tend to ask me that anyway, because again, I can be direct and still kind. I believe that some of what needs to be focused on is just what people are saying. So some of the concerns come down to, again, transparency, communication, lack of follow-up on response, rapid growth and safety, both pedestrian and traffic safety, and utility costs and burden on households. Businesses are concerned about permitting delays in city processes. And while these are things that are concerning, they're not new. Other cities are having the same issue. I think it's important to be able to gather feedback on best practices from around the area. When I say humility earlier, I meant that you don't have to come up with the idea, right? So if someone else is doing a good job, another city is doing it really well, and we look at their density level, we look at their population and say, oh, wait a minute, here's a good example of what some ideas that we can implement. I think that that works, and I think that, again, transparency is good until you have to deliver bad news. The goal is to deliver bad news truthfully and swiftly when possible, to be committed through processes that are beyond the control of city government. Sometimes you have to be honest and say, hey, you want us to do something that is a state matter. Let me connect you to the state. It's that simple. But oftentimes, they'll get someone on the phone and they'll say, oh, you're calling the wrong office, you need to call the state, and they hang up. And it's like, you could have taken one more step. Now, I will caveat that because I do know that at some point, staffing levels are pretty low, and maybe they can't answer every question. But I think that when you have the time to do that and you just kind of slow down with people, I think it changes their perspective of transparency and communication. That's what they're saying. They're saying, hey, we want streetlights out on Old Clifton Road. We said that 5 years ago. We said it 4 years ago. And I'm like, well, who did you say it to? Oh, somebody on the city council. Well, I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it, right? So maybe that should have been, you don't just go to a meeting and say, hey, we want streetlights, and boom, you have streetlights. That's not how it works. So I think it's just very important that the critical things are just people feel like they're not being heard and they have real problems, real issues, real concerns. And even to say, we acknowledge it, we're working on it, and here's some of our plan. We don't have all of it, and we need you to participate. I can't say that. Sometimes the answer is not at the table, and that's okay. So, thank you.
Yeah. Our final question is around fiscal stewardship. The city council is responsible for being good stewards of taxpayer dollars while meeting the community's service expectations. What principles would guide your approach to budgeting and fiscal decision-making?
Well, I've had this great experience of being an executive director for a busy nonprofit that doesn't have an accountant. And I happen to have a couple degrees in business management. I have my salon that I've managed over the years. I still would say city budgets are not my expertise. But making sure the right people are in place at the right time, and also making sure that when we say, again, this is the plan for how we're going to spend money, you can't then turn around and use it for something else. I think that's probably what most people are super frustrated, mostly at the state level right now, is that things are being repurposed and people feel like they're being left out of the process. And I hear a lot, well, I chose you because I wanted those street lights and I never got them. Yes. Sometimes you need to show people, well, streetlights cost this much and the tax will be this much. And if you're still committed after that, then let's try it. You know, let's move forward. I know it's not that simple and it's not cut and dry, but fiscal responsibility really comes back to integrity. You can't hide, even when there's mistakes, you have to publish the mistakes also. I think there's a way to publish mistakes without blaming people directly and just saying, taking accountability. With my nonprofit, even if I say, you know, I have delegated the process to somebody else, if they mess up and I have to speak to it, I don't say, well, you know, so-and-so is responsible. I say, well, you know what? I'm the executive director and I failed. Because I should have been able to, one, do we have the relationship where they feel like they can tell me that they need help? Sometimes people won't even come to you and say they need help because they think that you're intimidating. Sometimes I'm intimidating, but that's mostly with my husband, so. But yeah, I just think it's important that people understand it's not your money, it's the taxpayers' money. And there's some of it's mine, I'm a taxpayer in Port Orchard too, but in a literal sense, you know, we don't make decisions on how to spend other people's money aside from how they say we should. And if we do, we come back and say, this was a great idea, but we have these two, and we have to learn how to have buy-in. Even if a person doesn't want to do something, it could just be they don't understand the benefit. If you can convince someone that there's a benefit to doing it this way, then you've won a new voter. Thank you.
Any points of clarification for Jewel? Nope. Okay. We're gonna move straight into your closing comments. 2 minutes, all yours.
Closing comments. You know, I don't have any closing comments.
No?
Actually, no. I know you guys wanted to do things quick and it would be redundant, so no closing comments.
Awesome.
I just thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate that.
We want to thank you for taking an interest in serving your community.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you for coming out today.
Thank you. Oh,
Broken toe and all, Joel.
yes.
Yeah.
Gotta get back up. Thanks for
I'm
coming in.
short and that thing is really low.
It is.
Man, shake your hand.
Take care of yourself.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your interest.
Oh, thank you. Sure.
I broke my toe once, and I learned that at some point you have to start doing those exercises with the towel, or else
Oh, it won't heal.
It will literally
Yes.
never heal.
Oh,
Yep, that way.
thank you.
You know it.
Yeah, I get my x-ray tomorrow, so we'll see.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Just for them to say,
You're doing the right thing.
don't get that pedicure.
Go buy some tape.
And tape it.
Hey, buddy, you'll be fine. No, I won't.
You all have a great night.
You too, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We have another break until 7 o'clock again.
He just wanted to make sure that conversations did not relate to any city business, and we assured it was all county conversations, so.
Okay, good. Thank you. I couldn't be in two places at one time, so I appreciate it. Jay, you still with us? I gave him a break, so he may not be hearing me. Want to run something by you guys. Our meeting on Thursday, on the agenda, we don't have. Oh, we don't have public comment. We had discussed, what's that?
We're not obligated to.
We are not, we are not. So I, the mayor and I kind of went roundabout on it, and then I couldn't remember where we landed. It was not on the agenda.
I'm fine.
Okay, okay, so I'm hearing head nods. Okay, perfect. I didn't want to make that decision unilaterally either, so hearing that 3 out of us aren't, so
Yeah,
I would imagine.
I bet you
Okay.
others are in agreement.
Okay.
Mostly.
Did you drop Jay? Or is he?
I think,
out there?
no, I think
Out there
he's still there. I think I
somewhere?
just said we back at 7, and he probably stepped away for a minute. And he left. I can't even talk Mariners. We dropped Reif Schneider and Garver today.
Well, too little too late.
Well,
Those two should have been gone.
I don't know why we continue to play Reif Schneider all year. That's why I say Dan should be gone. I think Dan should be gone. I think he's the whole reason we're in the place that we're at because of the lineup decisions he's made this year. I could have said some of the same things last year.
He doesn't hit the ball, but he puts people in position to carry out tasks, and he hasn't done a very good job.
Who, Garver or Reif Schneider? Or Dan?
Dan Wilson.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I'm just talking to a guy like Reif Schneider who they keep putting in because of this, that, and the other because he hits off of a righty or left. I don't care. At that kind of batting average, why is Luke Raley not in every single game? And now we have a new outfielder we brought in that we picked up yesterday.
It will take some of that time.
It will take some of that kind of out. And Donovan will be back. I hear he's back. I don't know if he made the team tonight.
I've moved on to the Seahawks.
Well,
Training camp's over.
I'm not quite ready to move on from that. I'm this close with my Sounders though, because they have lost 6 in a row. And if I think if we lose another 1 or 2, I don't know that we got a shot. But
Well, at some point, they either pull it out, turn it around, or just cave.
But I was glad we got rid of Mitch Garver. I shouldn't say that. I don't ever say that. Just really have not enjoyed watching Mitch Garver play.
Ever.
Correct.
I think it's a case of hoping he's gonna turn it around. You're hoping for something that's
No, I don't have to hope anymore because he's
has
gone.
no history of happening.
They see a flash like somewhere in his career, and they see it, and that's all the general manager sees. It's like bringing back what's his face, our right fielder.
Reif Schneider.
No, a couple years ago.
Non-
Went to San Fran.
Non-stop.
Yeah.
I mean, just like then he goes down AAA, he's hurt, and he does a rehab down there. It happens with the games I keep going to, and then it's non-stop. It's like just stop. Like he's not it.
We were just talking about Reif Schneider's gone, right? Like, I don't understand why he ever got to play. Luke Raley's had a better bat all year long. I don't care if he bats better with a righty or lefty, depending on who's pitching. Luke
Because-
Raley should always be in.
Because when you look at the two and you see one who looks very athletic and one who doesn't, you think, I want the athletic guy in there. And it's like, this is baseball, man. This is baseball. Manny Ramirez can flat hit and he'll be a fire hydrant. And you
Look
know,
at Josh Naylor.
Oh, I love Josh.
He's my favorite too.
Yeah.
Not? When you look at a guy,
Josh Naylor looks like
a dad. He's got a dad.
He looks like a right-handed player who's playing left-handed. He does. When he plays first base and he catches the ball and he flips it to himself, every time. He looks like somebody. He looks like Michael Penix. Michael Penix looks like a right-handed quarterback who's throwing with his opposite hand. And that's how Josh plays. It's like, that is not, I mean, that is not a left-handed player. Yeah, he's my favorite player by far. I would never buy a baseball jersey, and that's the only guy that I'd probably buy one from. When he resigned, I was like, I'm all in. Like, I'm all in.
Well, I think that created a lot of excitement because there was a very big possibility he wasn't gonna resign.
He brought like a personality.
Who knew it?
attitude. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because he came with Gino.
Well,
He was part of that deal.
No, it wasn't.
I thought he was.
No, it was like 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
So I was in Arizona. I went to nope. I went to Arizona. My buddy and myself were sitting there watching the game, the whole series. I went, if we can just get their corners, can we just get their corners? Can we get Suarez back, and then get Naylor the whole series? Was nope.
got that
Was
wrong.
barreling at balls, and then we bring Suarez first.
So we picked up somebody else on the same day as we picked up Naylor then.
And then we brought Naylor in, and I was like, my buddy called my son like, there's no way that I literally text you and said, if we can just get Arizona both of their corners, we're good. And it actually happened, like, that was crazy.
And then we ended up liking
They,
Naylor better.
on paper, they were a better team this year, but just did not.
I'm not gonna fit in there.
You weren't here for that part of the conversation.
And there's only one common denominator.
Yep.
He inherited a bunch of good pitching staff.
Oh, yeah. But he didn't know what to do with them.
Well, maybe he tried to get
Well,
creative.
then you get six ways going there.
It was wrong.
What was that?
It was wrong.
What do they call it, like sandwiching or something, or piggybacking?
Piggybacking.
It's like,
Piggybacking.
just stop it, just stop it.
Tiffany. Tiffany, I'll invite you up.
Should have brought some water.
Do you need some? We got a bottle?
Maybe.
Yeah, let's grab you one before we get started.
I went to a concert last weekend and my voice is just not recovered.
Ed Sheeran?
No, I flew to Las Vegas with my mom and my sister for one day to go see the Backstreet Boys. So please do not judge me. They were my band when I was younger.
I went to NKOTBSB.
It was an
No
amazing.
judgment.
It was an amazing concert. Not my favorite. Oh, thank you so much, Eric. Counselor Warden.
Thank you. Put a title on that.
But yeah, it was an amazing concert. I've seen them do better, but I did realize that like we're all older now, including them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was it just a couple of years ago, we had 98 Degrees over at the Admiral in Bremerton. That was a fun concert. But
I don't remember that
it
one.
was a Christmas concert.
Oh, I bet that was good.
It was. Okay, I digress. Back to business. It is 7 o'clock. So the clerk should have briefed you on a little bit of the format for this evening. But we're going to get started. We're going to do a 2-minute opening statement. We have a set of 5 questions. We've allocated approximately 5 minutes for each question. I'm not going to stop you right at 5 questions in case you want to use more time on one question or another. And then at the end, we'll have another 2-minute closing statement.
Of course.
If out of the corner of the eye, you can happen to see over by Miss Wallace, but the green light means you still have time. When you see the orange light come on, that means you have 30 seconds. The red light means you're out of time. I will let you know during the question part that we're at our 5 minutes, and you can decide how to use that time from there.
If you could give me a signal
I
of
will,
like that
with
for
the yellow?
1 minute. Yeah,
Perfect.
just because my periphery does not quite catch that, so
Perfect.
that would be wonderful.
Excellent.
So, okay.
I can do that. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started with your opening statement.
All right, I think you all know me. My name is Tiffany Mitchell. I'm not going to have a super long opening statement because I think in the last meeting you all said we have their resume, we know who they are. But I did want to start with why I'm here tonight. So I actually had not planned on applying for this vacancy, but I had several people reach out to me in the space of a couple days suggesting that that might not be a bad idea. And I really value my free time, and I thought about, do I really want to give that up? And then I realized that over the course of my life, actions speak louder than words, and as much as I like to say that I like to sit on my couch with my cats, I like to go out and do things and be effectual more, because that's just what I do. I mean, I've had some remarkable experiences in my life. I've been a public servant for over 15 years now. I work for the state of Washington at this time in paid family and medical leave. I have run in 2 major campaigns in 2 different states, one here in Washington that I unfortunately lost for state representative 2 years ago, but there was another one back in 2018 that I ran for state representative in Oregon, and thankfully won. And it just shows me that I can really put my mind to something hard if I really want it. And this is something I think I would really love to do to continue my public service and to help others. So.
Perfect. Thank you. Our first question is around understanding the role. So in your view, what is the proper role of a city council member? And how would you balance representing the views of our constituents with making decisions that are in the long-term best interests of the entire Port Orchard community?
So I think there are 3 main parts to being a city councilor. Essentially, one is the fiscal part of it, and making sure that there's financial oversight over the city, making sure that things are appropriated in a fiscally responsible way, to make sure that we're meeting the expectations of everybody who lives here. So there's that, and then there's the creation of policy, which of course is going to also have a huge part of listening to the people who actually work for the city and do this professionally and taking their counsel very seriously. And then I think the third part of that role is essentially being a conduit for the people to be able to speak to their representative, their city councilor, to be able to be effectual for them, to be that voice for them, to let them air their grievances and say this is what's wrong with the city or this is not, and this is what we would like to see changed, and then to take action on those things. Whether we like it or not, when you enter the public eye like that as a public figure, you become one of essentially 6, in this case, faces of the city. People will come to you in the grocery store, they'll come to you at dinner, and tell you their thoughts right then. And it is my job as a city councilor, if I'm lucky enough to be appointed, to listen patiently to them, to make no assumptions, to do everything I can to understand what is at the root of their concern. And if there is something that I can immediately do about it, whether that's, speaking with somebody within the city that can connect them to resources, letting them know what I know, then, that is something that I can do. If it is not something that I can immediately do, but there's a path moving forward to address it, then I certainly can make sure that that gets brought up, in the appropriate committee so that we can try to work on a solution if it requires something like that. So I think that is what I would end up doing. Can you repeat part of the question in there again? Let's make sure I just hit all the points.
In your view, what is the proper role of a city council member, and how would you balance representing the views of our constituents with making decisions that are in the long-term best interest of the entire Port Orchard community?
Okay, so balancing those things. When it comes to the fiduciary responsibility of the council, I mentioned that we have to meet the expectations of the people who live here. And there are some primary responsibilities that people who live here expect. I think city government is kind of like the unseen most important part of government that affects people's daily lives, from the roads that we drive on, to the traffic signals, to the public employees that are actually going around and fixing the roads, or, all of those things. And we have to make sure that we plan, to make sure that we have the finances and everything in place to be able to continue to move those things forward and to keep them maintained. Because the second that, there's a giant pothole in the road, people are gonna complain about the city and, and what a terrible place we are, or if they have to, you know, complain over and over again about the traffic light that is awful, which I've heard more than once when I've canvassed for other candidates and myself. Eric helped me on that a couple years ago, actually. I relayed that from a neighbor that had mentioned it. And to me, like, balancing the desires of our constituents with the long-term interests of the city means essentially identifying what our expectations are, and again, all of those things that I mentioned. What can we afford? What are the needs and what are the wants? And being able to effectively prioritize those things that are the definite needs, while at the same time planning for like these wants down the road if we can do that, including creating a long-term plan to do that.
Ken. Our next question revolves around your strengths and contributions.
Okay.
What unique experiences, skills, or perspectives would you bring to the City Council? And how would you use those strengths to help the council better serve the residents of Port Orchard?
Okay, so unique experiences. So I mentioned that, and it's in my resume too, that I was lucky enough to be elected to be a state representative in the state of Oregon, and even though I didn't win here in the state of Washington running. And I think both of those experiences, even the race that I lost, creates a valuable experience that can be used for this council, kind of going back to the other question about the importance of being that conduit for people who live here, because I was actually reaching out to people and hearing them and listening to them and being someone that they could express themselves to. And I think because of that, and because I knew, especially in Oregon, that I would be going into a role that would create policy, all of those things were kind of at the center of my decision making, both in Oregon and would have been here in Washington, and I think would be here at City Council as well, in trying to think like, what is the thing that will benefit the public and the community the most, not necessarily me or one particular group of people. Obviously, we do have to care about equity when we're balancing those, but I think that experience will be helpful. I also think the experience will be helpful of having been a legislator on the Human Services and Housing Committee in the state of Oregon. I was on that committee, and I will apologize to all of you now. We created a law similar-ish to the Washington Growth Management Act that I voted for, because I kind of bought into this whole like, well, we have to make cities create all these opportunities for growth because they won't do it on their own. The truth is, it's not a nativistic thing. It's not a, not wanting to grow. It's a money thing and a fiscal issue. And we essentially created, I think I underestimated the concerns of people at that time from cities over how much that would be a barrier for them to have to deal with those unfunded mandates. And having the experience that I had at the state legislative level, I know part of the role of a counselor is to sometimes engage with our state representatives and our senators and to have input on legislation that will ultimately impact the city. And knowing how to talk to legislators about those things, having come from that world initially, I think is useful and will be an asset to this body if I'm lucky enough to be appointed. And so that's one particular skill that I'll bring in my outlook on things. Other things that I think I'll bring to the council is just my desire to work hard and do the best that I possibly can. I used to think that elected officials essentially, like, the reason they got elected is because they already knew everything. And so I was very hesitant when I ran in Oregon, because I thought, okay, now I've won. How am I supposed to do this and make sure that I maintain the confidence of the people that elected me? And it was helpful to know that every single legislator when I got there, even though they all kind of had like their specialty areas that they were experts in because of their lives prior to becoming a legislator, they were all in the same boat of needing to learn things, to jump in head first, and to also be open to listening to the people who actually were the experts. So on the state level, like people who were lobbyists, people who worked for the state, analysts, and I think that will be the same here at the city, is really leaning into what our employees who professionally do this say, and working in a collaborative fashion with both them and you to make sure that we find solutions that best help everybody in the city.
Thank you. The next question is around managing growth. Port Orchard continues to experience significant growth. How do you believe the city should embrace accommodating growth while preserving the character, quality of life, infrastructure, and financial sustainability of our community?
You had to ask that question. So let me say again, I apologize, as I mentioned before, that I supported legislation in Oregon that created the issue that we are dealing with now. As someone who is on our planning commission, it was a real wake-up call for me to see that. And I think one of the things that I have taken from planning commission that I would like to see happen a little bit more on council as we embrace that is to first just kind of get over the hurdle mentally about the fact that this growth is going to happen. I understand that there's always a hesitation about things changing. As human beings, I think we have a tendency to value stability and safety and security, and any time there is a major change, that threatens our internal sense of security. And so for me, I think if we can get over that hurdle mentally, at least this is how I deal with my own problems in my life too, it frees up mental space to actually look at solutions going forward. We can't stop the growth. How do we constructively move forward with that in a way that, as the question mentions, preserves the character of the city and the charm? I mean, I love Port Orchard for things that, you know, are still here that probably were here 20 years ago. And I worry sometimes about that change because I live in McCormick Woods, and the woods that probably existed before me got torn down and made people angry in another neighborhood, and now I similarly feel those same feelings for neighborhoods that are coming into McCormick Woods now. I have to be okay with that, and to know that as long as we plan to keep, you know, trees and wooded areas and, you know, follow what our comprehensive plan and guidelines lay out, that I think is what's going to work. I also think that it's important to have, you know, to sort of benchmark ourselves against other cities that have similar goals, to try to find out, like, what have they done that has worked, and to also seek out the input of the people that we serve here in Port Orchard. I love what the council has done with some of their events, like the one I attended in McCormick Woods, at the club there, because to me, I think that is at the center of what we should be doing, is hearing from people what they love about this city, and really focusing that growth in a way that will absorb those things that people love about Port Orchard, that make people want to live here, so that they stay and create employment that also allows for people who live here to be able to work here. So, and I will just say, I love our focus on coffee shops, because we have a lot of coffee shops in Port Orchard that are not Starbucks, and that makes me happy, so, and trees, so.
Our next question, what do you believe is the most significant issue currently facing the city council, and why do you believe it deserves the council's attention?
So I think that there are actually two, and we've kind of already addressed them, which is the growth issue. How do we deal with absorbing growth that essentially prioritizes cities like Port Orchard, prioritizes us, simply because we're in the urban growth boundary. So like we have no choice but to take it. And I also know that there are affordability concerns associated with that growth, because we want to make sure that future generations can get into a house. We're putting up all sorts of apartments that are still not affordable. And how do we really push back against all of that? And I think that's going to take a lot of creative thinking. I think we also should be looking at like different ways to leverage the levers that we have around revenue and how to smartly spend that in a way that will incentivize that growth and incentivize employment. And maybe even look at somehow trying to incentivize different housing types. I know that this is part of the comprehensive plan anyway, but like creating opportunities for properties to go in that are cheaper for people to buy to get in, for example, a condo, as opposed to a fully detached house, because unfortunately apartment dwelling for a lot of people is a dead end. They can't save enough to get into a house, but there are cheaper housing options that I think we can look into, townhomes, condos, to try to better incentivize that kind of construction that allows people to basically get in at a more accessible level. And then the other issue that, and I also want to just mention too, that I will work collaboratively with the council on all of that, because I know that I have a lot to learn, and I just want to be a good partner in trying to find that consensus, not just on housing issues, but on everything. The other issue for Port Orchard that I think is huge is infrastructure issues and water especially, which I know through some of my discussions with folks, and what I have heard is we share water resources with tribes like the Squaxin and I think it's Squalum, I always say that wrong, but the Squaxin and the Squalum. And so with them, I very much respect tribal sovereignty and I truly believe that our goals and their goals don't have to be mutually exclusive. We are neighbors. There has to be a way of bettering that relationship to where we can actually move forward in a way that benefits the peoples of both the city and their tribe. And so I really want to take it upon myself, if I get appointed, to really work on strengthening those relationships in any way that I can, so that hopefully that creates a pathway for us to have lesser resistance, and hopefully a better partnership with them, so that we can better face challenges, especially when it comes to water in the future.
Okay. Our last question is around fiscal stewardship.
Okay.
The city council is responsible for being good stewards of taxpayer dollars while meeting the community's service expectations. What principles would guide your approach to budgeting and fiscal decision-making?
So I wish I could say that I had a lot of experience with that on a state level, but I was a freshman legislator and they don't typically put freshman legislators on budget committees. So I didn't get that experience, but I do have a master's, a business, an MBA degree, so I have that. I also just have my personal life experience of trying to be very careful with how I spend my money. In my personal life, budget things to the penny. If I buy something, I go home and I put it on a spreadsheet, and I know exactly what I'm spending and how much I have, and I also budget for savings. So I think naturally that is something that I do on my own, is having an actual budget of like, what are my actual bills that I have to pay every month? What are my wants, like coffee? And I have that kind of in my little fun fund. And I'm just very good at trying to respect that so that I make sure that I can have all the things that I need to have and then have some fun too. And I think that you can have both. It just requires some discipline, and that responsibility to making sure that you're fully covered. And I would bring that same approach here to the city. We're not a business, but I think that there are a lot of things that we can apply from like running a business in the business world, which again, like I have at least a little experience through my degree of how to read a balance sheet and how to like budget in that way. But I think the most practical thing is, again, just kind of that desire to want to make sure that we always end up in the black and not in the red. And I can tell you that trying to work collaboratively with both the council and staff to make sure that we're addressing the needs first, I think will help to make sure that we have extra left over in our reserves to also better the city in ways that we can invest that will bring value to the people who live here.
Are there any points of clarification for Tiffany? Hearing none.
None.
I'm going to give you your 2 minutes for your closing statement.
My closing statement. All right. Well, I don't want to take up a lot of your time because I know that you guys have stayed late to make this happen. So I appreciate that. I do. I really, really appreciate you taking the time and effort to put so much thought into this selection process. And all I can do is hope that you will seriously consider me for this vacancy, because I know that there are a lot of people who have applied who are all great and incredibly qualified. I think what I would bring to this position, though, that would be unique is somebody that has the real, I don't want to say that it's more than anyone necessarily, because I think everybody has like the servant heart that is interested in something like this. But I think that I have demonstrated through my actions that that is something that is incredibly important to me through the work that I have chosen to do for the majority of my life in the public sector, to deciding that I'm not going to have a life outside of that. I'm going to go run for office. And, just taking that time and participating with people around me. And also acknowledging that I don't know everything and that there will be a learning curve and I'm willing to do it. And I think somebody with that kind of drive and determination, it's not super easy to find. And again, I don't know if it's necessarily more than anybody else who has applied, but I think that my history demonstrates that I'm going to put my all into everything here. And I just hope that I am selected for this position, because it would be an honor to continue in public service in that way.
Thank you. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your evening tonight and for your interest in serving our community.
Thank you.
We appreciate you
Thank
coming.
you guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you. Whoop, here. Thank you. Yeah. Whoop.
Thank you very much for your interest.
Oh, I appreciate it.
It's gonna be, I just need to adjourn. I just want to get him over here and make sure we're good. And set expectations for Thursday.
I'm just glad tonight is the night. It's
council, that concludes our council interviews for this evening. If you'll recall, we're, same bat channel, same bat time on Thursday. The agenda looks a little bit different, as I said at the start. We have the potential of a quick debrief in executive session. Charlie will go over some of that and join us on Thursday. And then if we're at a point where we can come out and have deliberations, we will. If not, we'll make some decisions to move to whatever those next steps would look like. I would anticipate spending more time Thursday night. It will go later than it does tonight. Any questions, comments, concerns before adjourning? Hearing none, we call this council meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Well, thanks, Jay.